What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be tying up this little pheasant tail variant. The hook we have in the vise right now is a Fiend Nymph hook with a 2.8mm silver tungsten bead with 50 D GSP. So right now I'm just kind of just dressing the hook and starting a little bit of a tapered body. This hook is a 1XL long shank. So the first material we'll be tying in is our tail, and we're going to be using just some natural pheasant tail. So I'm going to get about 4 or 5 fibers here. Going to tie these in on top with a shank. I like to keep those tails just about a half the shank long. I like to keep them a little bit shorter than what some people like to tie, but it's all personal preference. You can make them the whole shank length, the whole body length. Just like so. Then I just ripped those out. It's a lot easier than getting your scissors in there and cutting it. For the body, we're going to be using some copper wire. This is in a size small. And we're going to be getting 2 pieces. One for the body and one for the rib, and we're going to tie them in at the same time. So I got about a 6-inch piece and a 4-inch piece. One's just going to be for the rib, then the other is going to be for the body. And the way we're going to be tying this in is I'm just going to tie it on one side of the shank, then the other side of the shank. So I'm just going to tie this in on this side, facing the camera. I'm going to bring my thread back up. Then I'm going to get my other piece, my ribbing piece, and I'm going to tie this on this side of the shank. So this is a fairly easy fly. Once you start going, you can crank out a bunch of them, and it's been catching me a lot of fish lately, so I've thought I'd share the pattern with you guys. Awesome pattern. So I'm just going to throw a little 2-turn whip finish there. Now I'm going to grab my longer body wire, and I'm just going to start making some touching wraps up the body as I would a copper john. So we're getting those right close to each other. I'm just going to bring that wire all the way up to about a half a bead behind the back of my bead. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of room. The reason why I'm leaving a little bit of room is because for my collar, I'm going to be using a dubbing loop, so I want to try to keep a little bit of space behind there, just so I'm not crowding the back of the bead. So once that's tied in, I can just helicopter that out, just like so. Now I'm going to grab my other wire, and you can see right there I left a little space, and that's where that wire is going to start so it doesn't stick up. So now I'm just going to rib the actual fly here. Just like so. And I can get this all nice and tight. And just helicopter that piece out. So now I'm just going to make a little dubbing loop here, about a 3 or 4 inch dubbing loop. And for our dub, we're going to be using some custom blend that I started doing. It's called CDC dub. All it is pretty much, instead of putting a CDC feather in first, then just putting a little collar, what I've actually done is I've cut up a bunch of CDC feathers and blended it together with a hare's mask. So I want to do a video on that in the future, but it's awesome. It's really taken the time to tie a fly, to tie in CDC, which gives it so much more bugginess into a dubbing. So you're going to have a little bit of CDC in there, a little bit of hare's ear, which has a lot of spiky guard hair. It just makes for a really nice looking collar, especially on these Euro flies. So I'm just going to put my dubbing spinner in there, spin up that dubbing. What I'm actually going to do is just kind of pull out all the longer fibers. And I'm just going to wrap in that little collar. As you can see, the CDC and the hare's ear there. Just gonna come with my scissors and cut out that little dubbing loop. It's like so. I just want to make sure all this is pulled out. Now you can just make a quick little 2 or 3 turn whip finish. And what I like to do at this point is grab a little bit more of this dub and just kind of dub a little bit onto the thread just to cover up that little collar there. So I'm just going to put a little bit just like so. Now you can make your 4 or 5 turn whip finish. And when you pull that tight, it should suck right back down behind the bead like so. And then you can just cut that out and you're good to go. So it's going to be a really buggy fly. When it's wet, it's going to have a lot of lifelike bugginess to it. You can even trim some of these longer guard hairs if you'd like. It's like so. So you can even use this as a wet fly. You can swing this. You can do a bunch of stuff with it. I like to personally Euro Nymph with it, but you can also swing it. It's a great swinging fly. You can put this on a curved shank hook as well and use it as a wet fly. But there you go, nice little pheasant tail variation. Hope you liked today's video, guys. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions about the fly or any of the materials, you can leave that down in the comments. For a full list of the materials, you can see that in the description. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks a lot again for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.